Hello, everyone. Welcome to the final episode of Battlechads.
Final episode, Dan. This is Final Fantasy. We're talking about the 5 most impactful Final Fantasy cards.
It might be your last episode of Battle Chats, mate. After that,
Maybe, yeah. Maybe.
this week on Battle Chats. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the next episode of Battle Chads. I'm Josh, and I'm here with my two co-hosts, Dan and Sam. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hello.
And we've got we're talking this week. We're going to be talking about Final Fantasy. It's on the eve of the release of the set coming out. It probably actually might be out when this podcast comes live. I'm not too sure. I know the early access stuff for the Pro Tour players is now live, at least. But we're going to be talking about Universes Beyond generally. I'll have a crack about that, and then we're also going to talk about some five cards or five interesting, impactful cards that we spoke about that aren't really being talked about generally in sort of the mainstream sort of Twitter feeds that we've been seeing. So some cards we're excited about. So guys, how are you doing? What have you been up to?
Been doing great. I'm actually the first time of a breath of fresh air away from Magic, so I've actually been enjoying touching grass. What about you, Dan? How's it been going?
I've been doing the exact opposite. So I've not played a whole lot of Magic. So outside of like F&M, I played a league with a new and interesting deck that I've seen on Twitter that won an RCQ. Is it Phoenix? And that's just been like a breath of fresh air to just go back to like 2018 Magic, back when Mono Red Phoenix was good. It was a swift 0-3 drop. Not gonna lie. And then
yeah, it doesn't sound great.
Just jammed another league with what's the other deck I was playing? Living End. That's the one.
Living End, it's
okay.
Yeah, I've been. Last weekend we had the Spotlight series in Indianapolis. Was it?
That's right. Yeah.
And it was great because Boros Energy got feasted on. Like that top 8 was class. It was like I can't think of the top 8 at the top of my head, but it was like Blink, Espagurios. You know, we shouted out Espagurios on the last podcast. There was a prowess deck. You know that got. I don't think was it a prowess deck. I'm not too sure.
Yeah,
that got feasted on as well in the tournament. Like people really knew how to attack the meta, and there's quite a lot of sort of combo central sort of decks coming in, which means that. You know, things like Black White Flicker or the Esper Flicker deck is well positioned there because it can attack these sort of unfair strategies. And then you've got you know the space for like there was an Oculus deck that did well. It was a really great top 8 actually, like a really breath of fresh air to see Boros Energy doing so poorly, and you know even Boros Energy players are bringing different variations. Mardu Energy I saw, you know, try and combat these high impact combo decks that players have been bringing to the format.
Yeah, great. Definitely, and
great
I think it was inevitably taken down by Broodscale as well, which is a deck that everyone's played against it maybe once or twice on mode or whatever. It's never really had its accolade, had its trophy moment, and it was nice to see it get that moment in Indianapolis. One thing I really liked as well was it was a smaller scale Spotlight. So when we saw it in Europe early in the year, it was 1,500 players, and this time it was only 600. And obviously, that means there was less players in total, but it also means that people really took the opportunity to play what they wanted, which again just shows that, look, Boros Energy's everywhere, but mostly because nobody plays anything else, kind of. And seeing these new strategies, it was a great watch, great weekend, and as always, SCG put on a fantastic event.
Yeah.
I think the deck for me that stood out the most, and I spoke briefly about Phoenix and being a bit of a throwback to the Magic all them years ago, is the Grixis mid-range deck that came.
Oh yeah.
That Corey. Sorry, I'm going to
Burkhart.
Burkhart. That's one came 16th.
Yeah.
So there were things like Psychic Frog, Tamiyo's like as the new cards, but then it had like Snapcaster Mage and Colligan's command in the sideboard. So to me that looked a very interesting deck to look at. And it just seems good against some of the meta at the minute. Like
Those colours
right.
seem really strong. So like that iteration of the deck, I've seen a lot of people brewing on it. You know, Pygonti and all those people brewing on it. You know, changing the deck construction round and having a play in the. And it seems to be that those colours have like great answers, because traditionally, or what people have been bringing to answer modern is white cards, and there's actually quite a lot of tools in the Grixis colours. Flage is a problem for that deck if they resolve a Flage, but you know, having 2 Cling to Dust main board. Having access to, you know, things like a copy of subtlety, that sort of stuff, Shieldred's Edict. You know, there's even fatal pusher can be an answer. There is answers to it. It might not be so obvious, but the color combination seems really great in this format.
Yeah, for sure. And it's nice at this stage. I just have to say, it's nice any form of innovation.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. I know that the deck was sort of Modern's best Grixis hit, like almost like, now that's what I call 20s, like for Magic card wise. But
Yeah,
I really like the idea of Corey was just like, I want to play this, and he did really well with it. And it's nice to be reminded that avenue of Magic exists.
Yeah. I mean, I could talk about the Grixis deck. I tried it. It felt really good. It felt sometimes underpowered. But it's probably the way I was playing it. You know, when against like Scion ley line decks, I was like, if they got that, how to answer it? But you can build towards it. You know, Shieldred's Edict is a card. You can't really deal with enchantments too well. But the traditional tempo decks really struggle with artifacts, and this deck has lots of artifact hate. You know, you can play meltdowns in it. K command. I snapcasted a K command and made them discard a card in their upkeep the other day, and it felt amazing. I was like, this is what Magic should be, you know, like just a fantastic tournament. It was great to see innovation, as you said, Sam, in Modern. You've got to be innovative, because these you know, the 3 powerful decks that we see everywhere. Eldrazi got stomped on in that tournament. You didn't see Eldrazi too well. You know, Prowess didn't do too well, Boros didn't do too well. People are innovating against these decks. But I do think that this tournament was actually quite an impactful, more impactful than what people think it is, because I do believe that this tournament will change the meta. I think the meta will change. I think Eldrazi players will look at Broodscale. I think the Tempo players will look at Grixis or Oculus. And I think the black-white flicker decks will get more popular. I think you need to sideboard against the black-white flicker decks or join them. I think I'll be playing probably Torpor Orb, I think, in my sideboards.
Yeah, Torpor Orb's good.
Something like along those lines. I think that deck will come back in full swing. I think a lot more people will pick that deck up, because it's relatively easy to pick up, and it's a lot cheaper than, there's no force negations and stuff in it. You know,
it's a cool deck as well, right? It's a really cool deck.
There's a lot of lines. I think it's a deck that will reward tight and correct play and sequencing. And I think I think the separation between good flicker players and bad flicker players will be highlighted. I think it'll reward solid play and solid sideboarding.
That's why I've not played it. I don't want to be highlighted. Yeah.
Ditto.
I mean, last pod we talked about, you know, the deck choices you should pick. This was pre-Indianapolis, and we said that, you know, you need a really proactive plan. I think in Modern, I think black-white flicker has got proactive plans. The longer it stays on, the longer the deck has time to progress, then the more value it will incur, and it has that, you know, ultimate, I guess, what would you call it? You know, it will just win the game if you leave it.
It's got that inevitability.
Inevitability, that's it. Inevitability.
Yeah, it's like you can. It kind of like. I remember the first time I ever played against it. I was like, okay, this is fair enough. They're doing their flicker thing, and then it was like 2 turns later, and I realized that the deck operates like a constrictor, and it was just way too late.
Yeah,
I realized way too late. And I was like, oh, I am very dead.
And the amount of times it stabilized against me on like 1 life, and I'm like, you know, like they just stabilize that, start gaining life and incurring cards, and you're like, I am swamped with value now. I can't drown now. I'm drowned out. I can't interact anymore.
Cool deck to
really
exist.
Cool. So
as a living end player, you really don't want to see it either, because they've just got the overlords to just fill up their graveyard with more overlords and stuff like that. It was rough.
Or because I've been trying that deck, and I was against living end, and I just discarded my whole hand. Oh, I discarded half my hand to bait out an endurance, and then the endurance, and then I discarded the rest of my hands.
Nice.
So Universes Beyond, lads. It's here. it's with us. It's now not only is it a supplementary thing, a summer set anymore. It's now in standard. It's mainstream Magic.
Yep.
This is the first set, Final Fantasy. How are
Yes.
How are we feeling? Well, let's say generally about Universes Beyond before we talk to Final Fantasy. How you feeling about it?
Dan, I'll let you go first because I've got some pretty strong opinions. I want to see if you and yours as well, Josh.
Yeah, Sam. So when it first came out, it was introduced as a secret lair, which was Walking Dead, and then not too long after that, it was Stranger Things. So if you're a Commander player, or if you just really liked the sets that were coming out, like the Walking Dead, I'm a big massive fan of Walking Dead, so I wanted to get one. So I think at that point, when it was just a secret lair and it wasn't sort of coming into competitive Magic formats like Standard, Modern, Pioneer, Legacy as well, then I think at that point it was fine. But then the more and more as time went on, and we started seeing sets like Warhammer, which impacted Legacy for a little bit. We had the Doctor Who sets, which I don't think there was any good cards in Legacy, so it seemed like it was a bit of a cash grab.
Some cool reprints, snuff out reprinted.
Yeah. You obviously had the Lord of the Rings set, which was huge for
Massive
Legacy, Modern, Commander. Massive. So you had like Orcish Bowmaster, One Ring,
Lorien Revealed, like the Cycle,
Lorien Revealed,
Cycle,
yeah.
Troll,
So
Khazad-dûm, like
So it's like two of them cards are banned in Legacy, like Troll and One Ring are banned in Legacy, and then
One Ring's not.
One Ring's still legal.
One Ring's still legal. Okay, fair enough. Yeah. Well, One Ring is banned in Modern, is what I was trying to say.
Yes.
Anyway,
correct.
Yeah. And then there's other sets. So I think before they started putting them into actual sets and making Commander decks and stuff like that, just being sort of like secret lords, like if you want it, you can get it. Collect it by all means. And then they started printing it into the big sets. So again, like Lord of the Rings, Warhammer, the Spider-Man set that's coming out later on this year, and now Final Fantasy, which is due out in any time now. Like next couple of
imminently,
yeah. I just think it's hard for someone like myself. I don't have any interest in Final Fantasy. I've never played the game. Don't have any interest in playing it. So for me, it's hard for me to get excited about a set when it's lore based. The lore is based on something that I've got no interest in whatsoever. Whereas Magic sets in the past, like Return to Ravnica, it's about like politics and stuff like this, and gangs and all these little clans that do their own thing. So it sort of had something to get behind. And you had like Theros, so on and so forth. It just seems like they're just recycling these laws that have already developed and are not developing their own lore. It's like set last year that came out, All Over the Thunder Junction. It just felt weird, and that sort of felt like a bit of a Universes Beyond set because it didn't feel like Magic. So that's sort of my take on it. The cards, some of the cards look okay, but I don't think anything looks back-breaking.
I mean, it's a standard set, right?
Yeah.
It looks very heavily geared towards building commander decks around, a lot of legendary creatures.
Yeah, lots of them. And we had War of the Sparks a few years ago where there was Planeswalkers, and a lot of them were vastly unplayable. So I feel like it's just going to be something like that. Just sort of a bit of a throwaway set, but people are hyped for it. So
yeah. Sam?
So I'm not too sure. Dan actually just gave us a lovely history of Universes Beyond, to be fair. And I think that for me, the important thing is if I look back now and I look at the first instance, which is Rick Grimes and whoever else on Magic cards from the Secret Lair, am I surprised we are where we are? And sadly, and the answer is absolutely not. I am not surprised the Universes Beyond is where it is because it's popular and it's fun. And look, I know a lot of people. Please don't take to the comments to hate me already. Don't do that. And I know a lot of people go to Twitter and they vent because they love Magic the Gathering, right? I love Magic the Gathering. So there's two questions, in my opinion, that you have to ask yourself now. Do you like Universes Beyond? And if that's a no, does it bother you enough that you're going to stop playing? Because that's your option. You do play with them or you don't. And look, I understand the argument that at least when it was subject or sanctioned to commander decks, it might affect Legacy, but they don't have to see it in Standard and Modern. Fine. It's annoying it's here, but it is here. And to be honest, if it's here and this is what Magic looks like, let's enjoy it.
Yeah, you haven't got a choice. You engage with it. Or
yeah,
you
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I am very much the first person who used to have a moan, and you know what? I just moaned and played anyway. So I'm going to say my strategy. I'm not going to moan. One thing I will say is that I have Final Fantasy has always been on like the cusp of my mind. Like I've always known it existed. The only one I ever played is 13 and realized this was good. Apparently 13's rubbish. Sorry, Lightning. But for me now, I find myself Googling who's Sephiroth, who's Cloud, what's a soldier, and why is it in capital bold letters? Oh, Final Fantasy's the one, 15 is the one car, right? So let's check out the car. What's this about? There's a guy here taking a selfie. Why is that? And like the moment I switch off that like negative white noise that always exists in my head, I actually find myself having before the set's out and just enjoying these characters that I feel like I know from a different, but I don't. So I'm just checking them out. I know you're a big Final Fantasy fan, right, John?
Yeah.
For me,
it's
cool. It's cool.
So okay, so I'm going to go back to my opinion of this University Beyond. When I first saw it and the way they did it with Rick Grimes, having the unique card only accessible through Secret Lair, I thought this is a horrible precedent to set. Awful.
Yep.
I don't care if you want to spend your money on skins, quote unquote. If you want your Magic decks to look like SpongeBob and you want to fork out on doing that, crack on. I don't care. As long as the cards do the same thing and I know what they are, I don't care. Because people get the cards altered, right? Like that just happens. Like people either buy altered or they buy fancy versions, and if you can buy fancy versions that I don't have to buy. Like I don't have to buy the SpongeBob set, for example, in my set to play the game. I'm okay with that. I don't care. Like you spend your money. If you want to give Wizards your money to play different characters in cards that already exist, I have no issue with that. Zero. In fact, I don't even care. The universe is beyond. So there's two ways to look at it. One, Magic is a part of many universes, and they sort of, or different worlds, and they all combine in the Planeswalker, Spark, time traveling, whatever it is, universe traveling stuff. Fine. So any world could be realistic, right? You could, if you didn't know like Final Fantasy was a thing and they just released this as a set, this could just be like, look at Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, right? That had its own futuristic feel. I loved the feel of that set. Probably my favorite set of all time, that set, next to something like Innistrad. I loved Innistrad. And they're associated with Magic because that's the Magic IP, right?
Yeah.
But I think where it, I liked Magic cards to look like Magic cards. Like I did. I do like the full art stuff, but they've sort of lost a bit of I guess what would you call it?
Spice.
Yeah, it's lost the uniqueness to it now because there's so many. So like having actual decks that look like Magic is fairly unique now, but it's a way to people express themselves through the deck, right? Their deck construction, the way they build a deck with the art they use, it's expression, and I'm fully down for that. Now the Universe set coming into mainstream standard, I did put my back up about it, and I wasn't the biggest fan. But having been a entrenched Legacy player and used to things like Warhammer affecting the format, having things like alternate sets, supplementary sets affecting my format really, really intensely, initiative, all that good stuff. It's sort of like worn me down a little bit. But when the straw that broke the camel's back was when they said to bring in UB into standard, I was like, oh god, please. And you actually can't avoid it now. Like you have to buy it, right? However, when it was Final Fantasy, I was like, take my money.
Yeah.
Because it's affected me. Because I grew up with Final Fantasy. I grew up with Final Fantasy 7, 8, 9, 10. I think I stopped playing at 10. I think I started playing 10-2, and then I started playing World of Warcraft then, I think. But
Sure.
it's like massive part of my childhood was Final Fantasy 8. Final Fantasy 8 and Final Fantasy 10 was a passive part of my childhood. And when I see, Balam Gardens, and I see Squall, and I see Tidus, and I'm seeing Chocobos, I'm like, oh, please take my money. Because
Exactly.
it's attracting the franchised players who know these I guess skins of the cards, because it's essentially what they're doing in things like Fortnite and stuff. The different skins, etc. It's pretty much what they're doing in Magic, right? So I'm like I hate this, take my money kind of approach.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how I'll feel when I have to play with Spider-Man and stuff, because I'm not a fan of Marvel. I think it's not for me.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll play with Batman one day. I don't know. Maybe I'll feel more better about that. I don't know. But I don't know. I think the only saving grace for this is that this set doesn't look too impactful, and the cards that we're going to talk about now could genuinely look like any other Magic card, right? Like it could like I think they've got the Magic theme there, but yeah, I think I made myself. I think do you understand where I'm coming from? How I see it, like
Yeah.
I get what you mean. I think the problem
basically
is
I hate it, but take my money.
yeah. So you mentioned then this could very easily be just a Magic set, but
Could.
to me, it's the fact that it's not a Magic set, and the fact that they've purposely made the decision to not have it as a Magic set, and to have to invest into this IP to then hopefully bring new players in, and then attract sort of like older players that haven't played the game in a while. So it's a smart business decision, I suppose.
But what I think though is what's happened with Lord of the Rings is that it sold a lot of stuff, but I don't actually think it encapsulated that many people, because from personal experience, the amount of people who bought Lord of the Rings products from Magic because they love Lord of the Rings have not stayed.
Yeah.
They've not stayed
exactly.
with the game, because the game is fundamentally, especially like things like modern, is fundamentally flawed for new people, right? So I think maybe it will sell a lot, and it already has. I think it's the biggest selling product they've had, but I don't know how many of those people would stay with Magic. I'm not sure how you'll have these like fleeting purchases and then they won't stay, which brings another issue in the fact that is Wizards now going to chase these cash grabs rather than looking after their already invested players? And
I think that's my main concern. And hopefully, like with Final Fantasy being a standard legal set, maybe those people that come in, they play with the Final Fantasy cards and other cards in the actual Magic sets. Maybe they'll stick around and test the waters a bit more, and then go from standard to modern to legacy, so on and so forth.
I think another big issue is the MTGO and paper alignment, because I already know that they can't, due to licensing, because Final Fantasy has their own card game. They can't put Final Fantasy cards on MTGO, so they're going to be like a like-for-like variation. So there's going to be Magic cards that exist, be called something different, have a different artwork, but essentially the same card. For rules purposes and all that stuff. I know they had that problem with Fallout. The paper legacy meta was different to the online meta, which meant that if you went to a big tournament or you wanted to practice a big tournament, you couldn't actually do it unless you were playing paper. You couldn't sit home and grind MTGO and try these different things. And then you're also going to see deck lists now which don't marry up to paper ones, because it's going to be Tifa on paper, and then online it'll be something else. Do you know what I mean? Like it's going to be different. So like, that ambiguity is something that I think should have easily been ironed out in contract or in how they execute it. And I think that's really bad. I think that's really bad.
I agree, but I'm trying to be hopeful about this whole thing, because this is what we've got. Like I don't think
I think it'll be fine. I think it'll be good.
Yeah, for sure. And that's not.
I don't like it, but I will like it.
That's a Wizards of the Coast problem, not a Universes Beyond problem. Not obviously you can argue it is Universes Beyond problem, because this wouldn't happen if it was actually inset. But honestly, that's an executive decision, not a Magic decision.
I think there's bigger problems to the game than this, i.e., why is Europe and UK Magic players getting charged £150 an RCQ when US players getting charged $50 an $50 an RCQ? Like that is something that needs to be addressed. So we're saying it now, like we are miffed about that. Like, why are we getting ripped off? And when you look at America and they have like, they can have FNMs, RCQ FNMs, and we go over here and you have to spend £35 into an RCQ, and then you get prize support that if you top 8 you get a pack because the store has made no money.
It's always a 1 slot as well, right?
Always a 1 slot. You the amount of times I've seen on like 1 or 2 slot or FNM, because the store be like, let's put in RCQs $50, which is like what, 30 or 38 quid or something.
I think
the RCQ system itself is actually significantly more flawed than Universes Beyond ever will be.
Yeah, like there's way bigger problems to think, and I think people need to not be masked by the fact that Universes Beyond come in, but they need to look at how they're running our competitive formats. And Europe at the moment, I know we're not part of Europe anymore. Whatever you want to say about Brexit, but F Brexit. But Europe as a whole is smashing Magic. I mean, you said before, Sam, you look at the Indianapolis, they had 800 players or 700 players, and then in Europe they had like 1,600 for their Spotlight Series.
Yeah, it was. Can't remember where it was. It was Utrecht.
Something like that, yeah.
Utrecht,
1,500 in Central Europe. This Magic is booming in Europe, and they've got Booze MTG. You've got Four Seasons, absolutely smashing it. Axion in the UK. Absolutely smashing it. You've this big. I feel like the fact that we have to work harder for it is making it better for us in a way, but we shouldn't have to work harder for it, if you know what I mean. That's a different subject for a different pod, maybe.
We're all Brits and we all love a good moan. That's it.
Turn up to your events, or I will find you and I'll talk to you about how much I actually dislike Magic, and then you have nothing to do but to go to your event. And I promise I'll find you. I'll find your mum. I'm afraid. Go to your local events, please. Play Magic. Less time moaning, more time shuffling. If you finish quickly, there's always time for. That's what I do.
Yeah.
Sorry, Josh. Sorry, that I don't know where that came from. I
am aware, by the way, listeners, that that Sam's mic is cutting out every now and again. However, I'm not going to restart this podcast for that. So, if you hear a word drop from Sam's mic, just use your imagination.
I will use my imagination.
Yes, please don't. We had the pre-recording this. We had an in-depth.
Please don't.
We had a in-depth sort of a view of Sam's imagination, and let's just say we're thinking about doing like a spin-off series, a battlechads after hours, just so Sam can vent.
Yeah, maybe we'll give that a go.
You'll get so cancelled, mate.
Yeah, I'm well behaved, I promise. I really am. Thanks, Josh. The ambiguity makes this perfectly okay, and know he's going to over. Thanks, mate.
So, what we do like, though, are 5 cards that we picked. Now, Sam and Dan, you're going to talk about these 5 cards because you've essentially came up with them because I was too busy in work. And I completely forgot to do a research. So you're going to talk about these 5 cards. They're really interesting ones. You've deliberately kept away from things like the Sephiroths and the Dark Confidence and all the ones that I've got, the mainstream attention that are obviously going to see play somewhere. What's the is it one called?
EV,
or they've been done to death. So you've come up with a list of 5 really cool cards. I think we'll see quite a bit of play and potentially quite impactful within Modern, potentially Pioneer, and potentially even Standard. And yeah, these are our 5 cards. So do you want to go read out the first one, Dan?
Yeah. So it's a red card. So this is perfect for me. So the first on our list is a Joshua Phoenix's Dominant, which is 1 red and a white for a 3/4 legendary creature, human noble wizard. It reads, when it enters, discard up to 2 cards and draw that many cards, and it has an activated ability. You can pay 3, a red and a white, tap it, exile Joshua, then return it to battlefield, transformed under its owner's control, activate only as a sorcery. Now its flip side, its transform, is a Saga. Now it's it's a Saga creature, which is important with the new rule changes as well that have come out. So it's a Saga creature. It's a 4/4 flying lifelink base, and it has 3 chapters. Chapter 1 and 2 both read Rising Flames Phoenix deals 2 damage to each opponent, and then it's chapter 3. Strap in because it's War and Peace. Is chapter 3. Flames of Rebirth. Return any number of target creature cards with total mana value 6 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Exile Phoenix, then return it to the battlefield. So the Phoenix goes away and it comes back as Joshua, and then you also get the creatures that you pick with mana value up to 6. So you get like Ragavan, Guide of Souls, Ocelot, Pride, and a Flage back. Which to me, when I was looking at it originally, it seems insane. My only sort of what's the word, like not speculation, like caution with this card is that it's if you're doing it on curve, so you go turn 3, play Joshua, you're not going to be able to get all of them cards back until turn 7. And if you're playing Boris Energy, which is where I'm tying this card into the most, then if you're not winning or very close to winning on turn 7, then I feel like it's just a bit sort of win more. So it feels like it's not necessarily needed, especially when you've already got, I mentioned Flage already, but Seasoned Pyromancer, Recruiter of the Guard, Fable, and a Mirror Breaker in that free slot. So I think it's going to be quite hard to fit Joshua Phoenix's dominant into your 75. Even if it's just as a one-of, you could just drop a Seasoned Pyromancer or anything like that. But it looks like a good card.
Could this be a sideboard card then for them? Because I know you said they're not going to win by turn 7, 8, or whatever, but if you think post-board, they're going to have Stern Scoldings brought in against them, they're going to have more removal brought against them, board wipes, etc. The game's going to go long, and that's what the sort of...
Game's going to go long, yeah.
That's the sort of space where like Flage comes in. You know, turn 7 is when you can cast Flage and then reanimate in the same turn. This potentially could be there as like an alternate win con. I mean, it's a 3/4. It's got a fat booty.
The problem with this is that it's so Flage on turn 7 is cast it dies, and then you bring it back straight away. The problem with Joshua on turn 7, it's just a 3-mana 3/4 draw up to 2 cards.
And it's got to stick around. So if you cast it on 3, it's got to stick around.
Exactly, yeah, because it doesn't have haste, so you can't do it there and then. It's got sort of a bit of a value when it enters, where you draw up 2 cards after discarding 2. So I think that the longer that the games go on in in Boris Energy, then Joshua just sort of loses its value. Because like if you get to turn 7, you're playing against like Jeskai Scam Control or just straight blue-white control or even Oculus. And by that point, they're even casting an Oculus. They've got a Teferi out, so they can just lock you out of the game or anything along them lines.
So Dan seemed to have picked a card he's actually not too sold on. So let me jump Joshua as much as I can. So there's a couple of things I actually quite like about this card. First of all, 3/4 is not a horrifically irrelevant stat line. I like it. He is a wizard, so there's some Flame of Anor shenanigans that could potentially happen with him. However, unlikely. Let's stick with the Boris Energy narrative for now. So, obviously, closest comparison to this guy is Seasoned Pyromancer. And the big difference, I think I can describe between the two, is that Joshua is good. He is not a Modern Horizons card. So why would you ever play this over a card like Seasoned Pyromancer? I think this card works exceptionally well with something like Jolt of the Wake, which I know that Energy has dabbled with in the past, which is sort of the white unearth with Energy. So if even with Seasoned Pyromancer, both got 5-mana abilities, right, on the backside. But with Jolt of the Wake, this one's more likely to be relevant. That Saga side, what I really like about it is its first 2 chapters are an 8-point life swing because you deal 2 damage, gain 2 life, right? So
can you attack with it as well? And it's got lifelink too. So like once it flips, can you then attack with the Saga as a 4/4 flying lifelinker?
Only if it has haste.
Only if it has haste, yeah.
Oh, because it leaves.
So it comes in.
So chapter 2, you can attack with it then.
Yeah.
So it comes in, deals 2, on the next turn you're dealing 2 more, and then you're attacking for 4 lifelink. So it is a big.
This only gets 1 attack in before it flips and returns.
2. Yep, that's right.
But only one, yeah.
It's. I think there's a lot you can do with this card, and we've already seen this type of card be very important in Modern with Fable and Season Pyromancer being very playable and very strong cards.
Yeah.
This card, to be honest, sometimes my card evaluation, when I don't know, this card has a lot of text, and typically the more text a card has, the more edge cases, corner cases a card could have. So it's got two, they literally couldn't fit on one side. So it's got two sides of text.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see where this card pops up. And look, if it doesn't die to the front side or the back side of a Flage, that's huge in Modern at the moment. Your card advantage, sort of creature mirrors come down to Flage, and I love that this doesn't die to Flage straight away. And I think that is something. And Phoenix Dominant, cool name. Put 4 of them in your deck. Let's go. Easy peasy.
Yeah, I think it's cool. I think people play with this. I think it's cool. I think Sam's bang on with the relevant points. I think I think potentially it is definitely a sideboard card that can come in really grindy games. Hard to when all your creatures get removed. It can't be Stern Scolding. It's hard to fatal push. It can't be bolted. Galvanic Discharge requires more of investment against it. Can't be flaged. Might be a mirror breaker, honestly.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's okay. It's definitely worth to at least try it out. If energy is like to that point now where I feel like if it's not broke, then don't fix it. But there's always going to be ways where you can test other cards in, especially against the mirror. And this having lifelink and dealing a lot of damage itself, and then on the Saga triggers as well, it deals 2, and then you gain the 2 life because the creature's got lifelink itself.
Cool.
So it'll be interesting to see what it's like.
Cool. Next then, so one you brought, Sam?
So I brought one that I originally read and completely glossed over, and then I reread it and I was like, oh, hang on, something unique. So obviously in Magic, we have a lot of the same effects, right? We have how many black removal spells do we have in the game that are just some version of murder? Mana cost changes, sorcery speed, instant speed changes. So sometimes my eyes glaze over when we get a new. It's kind of something we've seen before. But one of the things I brought was Fire Magic, really unassuming card. So just as a quick read, it's 1 red mana instant, which is very important, and I'm really going to talk about. Tiered. So tiered is essentially you can pay 1 additional cost as you cast a spell, and you get to staple that effect. That's what the spell does. So for 0 mana, it deals 1 damage to each creature. So that's your original red and 0 mana. So 1 mana altogether. Deals 1 damage to each creature. For 3 mana altogether, it deals 2 damage to each creature. And for 6 mana altogether, it deals 3 damage to each creature. I think you can ignore the 6 mana mode. Even though sometimes maybe dealing 3 damage to everything is relevant, or obviously it is relevant, but 6 mana is not really want to be with that. My love with this is the 1 mana mode, which is deal 1 damage to each creature. We've not really seen that for 1 mana, essentially.
No.
And if you look at Modern at the moment, there are
instant
a lot.
Speed too.
At instant speed, there are a lot of 1 toughness pesky creatures which really take over games if you don't deal with them. My biggest love for this is it just clears out Ocelot Pride and Co. immediately. They keep Guide of Souls, but that's not a cat, so it doesn't count. But essentially, being able to go, right, you've got it's a 1 mana instant speed answer for me to deal with your double Ocelot Pride start, which I think is huge, absolutely huge. Yeah. What do you guys think?
It's mental. I mean, like I've been looking at tech around the 1 mana blackout enchantment creature tokens get -1/-1. This just like fills. This is a great sideboard card. You could even if like. Even if you had this as like a main deck one-off, like you've got an answer to like a Ragavan or your Ocelot Prides or whatever. The pest control I've been playing as well. It does a similar effect for 2 mana. This is 1 mana less, albeit in red. This is it's excellent. Like it's I think it's an effect, especially in Modern, that we haven't seen, and I think it's actually needed. Honestly,
I agree. And obviously, we've seen decks like Amulet Titan pick up cards like Vampire's Vengeance, which not a fantastic modern card, but is something that's pretty needed. It's the same like we see a lot of decks play Pyroclasm, and surely this is just with the nature of modern and with the nature of energy better than Pyroclasm, right?
the instant speed's massive, absolutely
Yeah.
massive. Like the fact that you can hold up interaction. You know, you like the Boros energy, right? That you tap out and they're like sound, bang, 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 do the thing. But if
Yeah.
you've got 2-3 mana open, they might be more reserved to play, which means that when you actually come to tap out or do your whatever you want to do, you can hold up that minute interaction. So when they go off, clear the board. I think Boros Energy is it's still a problem. It's still a deck you need to face. I know it got smashed in Indianapolis, but I still think you will see it at RCQ. People just pick it up because, not bashing on Boros Energy players, by the way, because it's still hard to win these things. But people will just pick up a Boros Energy deck because it's easy and it's lazy and it's just does its thing, and it does its thing well. You'll see it quite a lot. You see it all the time winning, challenges. RCQs, etc.
Yeah, is what it is, but it's nice to have. I'm never, even if this isn't never particularly as playable as I want it to be, it's nice to have this as an option.
Yeah,
in my
definitely.
tool belt forever, and we'll see how it goes. But at this point, I don't see why not. One thing I really like about it is it's still symmetrical, so it can't even be used in the Boros Energy rat race they have for the mirror. Because obviously, if this was damage to opponent stuff, you then it just devolves into something else. No, card's playable. Play it. Play it. Sorry. Play it.
Next card, Dan.
Yep. So the next card that we'll talk about is the Wandering Minstrel, which is 2 mana, green or blue, 1/3 legendary creature, human bard. The line of text that me and Sam have gone for when we chose this card is the first one is just lands you control, enter untapped. And then the next line of text in what we're thinking of anyway doesn't seem to be relevant. So at the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control 5 or more towns, create a 2/2 elemental creature token that's all colors. And then it's got 3 and then Wooburg. Other creatures you control get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of towns you control. So this card is a Green Sun's Zenithable, or what was the Spelunking?
Spelunking, yeah.
Where lands you control enter a battlefield untapped. Obviously, it just goes straight into the Amulet deck. The deck's got it's now got even more tools, even as just like a one of where you can go get a Green Sun Zenith and then play your Spelunking in this Wandering Minstrel. And then with it being 2 mana, it doesn't affect what they're doing as much. There's been many times where I've seen an Amulet Titan player miss out by doing a combo because they've lost, say, like 1 mana or 2 mana here, there, and everywhere. So it's definitely going to be an interesting card to see how this may potentially evolve Titan.
Yeah, agreed. I think that Titan is very reminiscent at the moment of Storm that we see in Modern. And what I mean by that is they never used to be as reliant on their engine pieces like Medallion, Ral, Amulet. But the way we see the deck evolving now, it can do its thing. It can do the fair Titan plan. But why do that when you get to do this crazy combo finish instead? Why ever do the fair Titan plan, right?
Yeah.
And that deck cannot find its cards outside of Urza Saga. Goes and fetches you Amulet number 1, but you can't find Spelunking. You can't find Amulet 2 because typically you could have double Urza Saga, right? I just think as well, when Green Sun Zenith got unbanned, everyone immediately went to this as a 7 mana time, and then it never really did that because it doesn't really do anything else for the deck. If the deck wanted Titans in play, it wasn't Green Sun Zenith that was bringing that to the table. It was already doing that. And now Spelunking is a bit more... Sorry, not Spelunking. Zenith has a bit more utility in the deck because it can now fetch you an Amulet effect, or it can now fetch you a Titan, or it can now fetch you a Cultivated Colossus. And I think this might be the final piece we see for Green Sun Zenith to really start to take off in that deck.
And you've actually paired this with another card, because I know we mentioned fire, but you sort of like double barreled this with another one. Just want to explain
that's
your
right.
pick there.
Yeah, so I also picked Traveling Chocobo. Josh? Chocobo. Right, I'll go with that. So Traveling Chocobo is a bird. It's
Yeah.
a 3-mana 3/2 bird. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. You may play lands and cast birds from the top of your library. So bird, tribal, engage. Let's go. But if a land or bird entering the battlefield causes something to trigger, those triggers happen an additional time. And the reason this is cool with Amulet is because, like the Wandering Minstrel, this actually doubles up on your Amulet triggers. As a Kavu or bounce land enters the battlefield, that triggers your Amulet. So if you have this Chocobo in play, as that bounce land enters, your Amulet now triggers twice because of the Chocobo.
Yeah.
So this kind of acts like a green sustainable Amulet of Vigor, kind of. I am not in the Amulet hive mind. It's scary. I don't want to go down there, but like Amulet players are excited about this, and that deck is already really, really strong. I don't think extra tools, as you've just said with Fire Magic, are a bad thing. And I'm not too sure if they are going to kick the door down and really, like, I'm not too sure if you can fit a Primeval Titan on a bird. I'm not sure how big Chocobos are meant to be. But, like, really, this deck now gets to play with its 75 more. And that's the scary thing for combo decks to be doing. Belcher's 75 is basically fixed. So it's you know how to tackle it. But it's when Neobrand and Amulet Titan are really playing with their lists, that's scary in a good way. And I'm not too sure if these do make the cut, but why not try it, eh? It should be fun.
Cool. So next.
So the next card that we've got on the list is Cloud Midgar Mercenary, which is white for Human Soldier Mercenary legendary creature. When Cloud enters, search your library for an equipment card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. And then it's got second line attacks. As long as Cloud is equipped, if an ability of Cloud or an equipment attached to it triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. And it's a 2/1. So initially when I seen this card, I thought, oh, it's just another Stoneforge Mystic. And then when you go into it a bit more deeper, if you look at the hammered list at the minute, they're playing Corey Steelcutters. So if you have a Corey Steelcutter equipped onto Cloud, then you get 2 monk tokens per turn rather than just 1. And if you look at lists going back, sort of like this time last year when Hammer was still playing Cauldron Complete, Cauldron Complete has a trigger where it's either when it attacks or when it deals damage, then you get to exile something. So you can attack and then exile 2 things with Cloud as long as you've got the Cauldron Complete out. Obviously, Cauldron Complete has got a big equip cost and it's got a big casting cost, but when you're running Stoneforge Mystic specifically, you can just cheat it into play. And then you've got your Sigarda's Aids and your Pure Steel Paladins to just move it onto Cloud for free. So it's definitely going to be an interesting card. I'm a big avid enjoyer of Hammer, so I'm excited to see how this one plays out.
I mean, it being at a 2/1, it just means it dies to Fire Magic, right?
Yeah, yeah, true. It's got it's not got a thick bum like some of like the Joshua, but it's
Josh is thick.
Josh is thick, and to be fair, not to discredit you, Josh. I think if you're 2/1, not a 3/4. Sorry.
I used to like you.
Yeah, it used is always what I get. To be fair. So sorry. What do you think, Dan? Would you be a 3/4 or 2/1?
Would I be a 3/4 or 2/1?
Yeah,
I'd probably be a 3/4.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'd be a 0/0 for those who care.
I think I'd be a 6/6. Just to throw out there.
Okay, well, what I don't know where this has gone. But what I like about Cloud is, for one, I recognize Cloud. I know who Cloud is. Very cool. Thank you, Wizards. But it also, Stoneforge Mystic wasn't really the card we wanted it to be when I come back into Modern, right? Everyone has super fond memories of that card. and then when it got unbanned, we were kind of like just waiting and waiting and waiting for, like that kid in Incredible was just waiting for something, and it doesn't. So for me, Cloud's second line of text makes potentially a lot more equipments relevant and potentially future equipments relevant too.
Yeah, it seems like a strong enabler and a potential an engine that can, if left unchecked, will just run away with the game and win the game. I know that red has been splashed in lists now with hammer, and there's combat tricks where you can attack with a potentially just a 2-1, and then I forget the instant red card is attach equipment to it, but
magnetic theft.
But yeah, magnetic theft. And then there's those combat tricks there, so interesting. And then we've got one more card we want to talk about.
Yeah, so this is one of mine. Now, flavorfully, and I can't believe I'm going to describe Final Fantasy lore to anyone, but this is what Magic has done to me now. My pick is Zach Flair, and as far as I'm aware, this was the original owner of the Buster Sword and give it to Cloud when he died.
I actually don't know. I'll Google that.
Oh, right. After. Okay. Well, now I am correct because nobody can tell me I'm wrong. So Zach Flair's a really interesting card. It's a 1 mana, 1 white pip, 0/1. Enters with a +1/+1 counter. And you can pay a mana, sacrifice it, target creature gains indestructible. Any counters on him goes onto the creature you target, and any equipment equipped to him goes onto the target. I even understand why that's flavorful. So very cool, Wizards. Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. But why does this card have me excited? Because it's a bit weak, but there's currently one deck in Modern that really cares about +1/+1 counters, kind of cares about equipment, and that's Brood-Scale.
Yeah.
So bit of a weird one because he's got no tentacle to be seen, but Brood-Scale is essentially a mono green deck. Let's keep that in mind. So it could easily splash white. But this does two things. It protects.
I mean, it plays Spybrush Drum as well, so splashing white.
Yeah, true. So it protects Brood-Scale. What I really like about this card is how well it interacts with Soul Cauldron. So if I put this underneath Soul Cauldron, then make my Glaring Fleshraker a Zach Flare, Glaring Fleshraker can now do the I'll protect you, Mr. President jump in front of Brood-Scale. And then all of a sudden, all of your cards are starting to protect each other with this ability. It really cascades out of control. And another thing I really like is when I played Brood-Scale, I thought, wow, this deck is really cool, but it does not utilize the one generic mana from Delighted Halfling very well.
Yeah.
And this is a really good way to utilize that one generic mana.
That's actually a really good point because it just doesn't really like. I guess it's Soul Cauldron, but you can actually cast Zach Fair with this with Harbinger. Sorry, not Harbinger.
Yeah, Halfling, and then
Harbinger sees Halfling. Yeah, you can actually cast this card uncounterable with that card.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
I think that and then using the generic mana later on. Yeah, it's good. It's good stuff.
Yeah, big fan of it. Also, could be playable in Hammer. Just a colourless magnetic theft. I think it could be okay. Protection built on. Who knows?
Cool. So there are 5 cards that you lads have brought that are really interesting, and people may have either overlooked or not really talked about it, or I've not really seen these cards in generic sort of mainstream Twitter feeds that I've seen anyway. So really cool. I might have seen the Traveling Chocobo because it's funny. But yeah, really interesting. The set looks fun, interesting. I think the sealed sort of things I'm not sure how it'll be, but there seems to be quite a lot of interaction, and there seems to be quite a lot of sort of build around legendary creatures. There seems to be a lot more commander deck sort of potential here. Whatever, if that tickles your fancy, crack on. But yeah, you had any more to say on the sort of Final Fantasy set itself, or any more to say on any of these cards that we've mentioned before we move on to listener questions?
I just really want to play a Final Fantasy game now. Really, really want to play one, and I think that's you mentioned before, Josh, that it's cool when it's something I like. but it's not
Yeah.
cool when it's Spider-Man, for example, which is,
Yeah.
we're pretty. I agree, but I'm gonna take these universes beyond products as a way to introduce me to IPs that I've never naturally grown into, and then in 2 weeks' time, I'm gonna be talking about Final Fantasy VII, and it's gonna be sick, right? Like
The
this
thing the
is
thing with Final Fantasy, right, is like you played the different games have different feels to it, but it's all weirdly Final Fantasy. So Final Fantasy VIII felt very much different to Final Fantasy VII, but Final Fantasy VII wasn't really traditional Final Fantasy in terms of the little black mages and stuff like that, and like you would see on the art on Fire Magic, where like Final Fantasy IX goes back to that, and then Final Fantasy X is like another little standalone thing, and it's like, I don't know, it's a cool world, like it is cool. I've not played it for years. I really want to really want to get back into it. Final Fantasy X was probably one I played the most. Second to then Final Fantasy VIII and then 9. I really enjoyed those games. 7 is a remake of 7, so that might be worth checking out. Especially because like there's something happens in 7 which caused a lot of people emotional distraught.
wow. I can't wait to be emotionally distraught in 2 weeks' time.
But yeah, it's great. And this is I guess where the IP sort of work, with both companies. I've now going to try Final Fantasy, or Final Fantasy now going to try Magic, and hopefully they can see it mutually beneficial to get everything online on the same song sheet.
For sure.
So Dan, we've got some listener questions. 2, I believe.
Yep, we've got 2. So the first one's sort of like double-sided. So the first question is, which cards do you think could never, this is in like the speech marks, like never, to draw attention, be unbanned, that are currently banned in Modern, and which cards do you think could benefit the Modern format by being unbanned? Quite a wordy question.
So I think a lot shouldn't be unbanned.
Yeah.
I don't actually think anything would add to the Modern format. I'd say there's some things on the ban list that I'm not sure why are banned. For example, Umezawa's Jitte. Why is that banned? Seems a bit weak. Especially how fast Modern is right now. I don't understand why. I think Fury. Why is Fury banned? Like, Fury banned, and then all of a sudden Boros Energy's a thing. What would solve Boros Energy? Fury would do well there. I thought Fury was fine, but Fury could potentially be unbanned for me. Why is Punishing Fire banned? Seems a bit mid. Seems a bit weak. Yeah, I think that's sort of like where I'm looking in terms of what should never be unbanned. I think there's a lot on this list that shouldn't be unbanned. I'm not gonna steal Sam's thunder on a card that I agree with. I'll let Sam talk about that one. But I'm just looking through the list now, and all I can see is like, yeah, that like Birthing Pod might seem fine, but what's the point in unbinding it? Like, yeah. Dark Depths is one I originally said, and then Sam reminded me that Amulet Titan is a thing. The fair one. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot in here. I just don't think nothing jumps out to me like that should be unbanned to make Modern better. I just think there's a few things on there that like is pointless being on. So on that sort of metric, then there's pointless unbanning it because it's going to be pointless in the format anyway. It might make people happy. I don't know if it was unbanned. Yeah, I think what I really want unbanned in Modern is Ponder. I think Ponder would be fine. Honestly, like I know it's quite a combo focused format, but I think a lot of the combo decks that are playing these things, that Ponder's probably not the card in which they splash into. For example, I don't know. Maybe Preordains is fine, but yeah, I would like to see Ponder unbanned, but that's me.
Yeah. Ponder makes you find Frog more often, so I don't agree. And I also used Jitte, but now I've seen what Cloud does. Gets you 4 counters on your Jitte.
Yeah, but you
Too
just
good.
Fire
Too
Magic
good.
it, kill it.
True. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I really want them to unban Hypergenesis. Do it. Why not? Be funny. Hypergenesis now exists in a world where you can only cascade at sorcery speed, so no instant speed shenanigans.
Mm-hmm.
And Hypergenesis and Force of Negation have never existed together.
Yeah.
Force of Negation is just too good.
Yeah.
Also, people used to argue with me about this and be like, what do you mean? Like, it adds such an unfun element to modern. Like, why would you want to introduce that to a game? Fair enough, good argument. However, Neo Brand does the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So now, who cares? Who cares now? Like, I get it. I get that. But if that thing's already being done by an unfun deck, just Hypergenesis doesn't add anything to the format. It doesn't take anything away, but it does let me cheap. Well, sorry, the opposite of cheap, expensive cards into play for 0 mana, and it lets you do the same. So it's actually quite. It's fair, I think. Look, in
Try to
terms
convince
of the
yourself.
cards, yeah, I don't know who I'm convincing. It sounds like I'm convincing myself. Look, in terms of cards that should never ever be unbanned, I think cards that should never ever be unbanned that have an impact on Magic post or outside of the cardboard. Sensei's Divine Top should be on every ban list imaginable,
Yeah.
and it should never come off any ban list.
Yeah, I agree.
That card just impacts Magic in such a strange and unique way that like it's takes up so much time and is so impossibly annoyingly powerful, and it's such a cool card. I really want to be able to play with top. No one should ever be able to play with top again. And if any event ever goes to time because of top, I'm gonna find you. I've threatened already.
It's the players who I'm
Oh,
playing this deck because it's the best deck. It plays top. I'm not really sure what I'm looking for, what I'm doing with it, why I'm doing it. I'm just doing it because I can. They're the players that take the time, but like you when Rejuke on the players, the guy from Eternal Durdles, Phil from Eternal Durdles, I forget his name. When he's playing top, he expertly playing it, knows his clock, knows what he's looking for, knows his decision straight away. But it's when just Joe Bloggs picks up, and it's like, just top, yeah, top. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, yeah. I don't think it's a card that should exist.
No, it's also free for every Urza Saga as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So I don't want. Just don't, please.
Yeah,
Give me,
keep it out of the format, please.
Give me Hypergenesis. Just give me Hypergenesis. Okay, Dan, what do you think?
I agree with a lot of what you're saying. So when the unbans happened in December and Splinter Swing got unbanned, I was like, Splinter Swing's just not good because it's a 4-mana sorcery combo that you need a creature to be put on, which just dies to Fatal Push with Revolt trigger.
Yep.
So I think a lot of the unbanned list, Josh, I agree with you. A lot of it could be unbanned, and the format would either play one-offs in the decks, like say if you unban Pod, for example, you would just see like Yawgmoth would come back, but even then it's still picking up a bit of numbers. If you see Ponder, you would just simply replace your Preordains with the Ponders and shuffle up your deck anyway. There's a lot of cards on it that can't come back off the ban list. Like Skull Clamp is one, Holgak is definitely one, Nadu is absolutely one, Oko once upon a time. There's a lot more Grief. I hate Grief with an absolute passion.
I think a lot of these... Sorry, go on.
One card that I would like to see come off of the ban list, which is again more of just sort of like a flashback, is Blazing Shoal, because I didn't get the chance to play Infect with Blazing Shoal, and Infect it isn't good in Modern at the minute. It's not been good in Modern for God knows how long. So I want Blazing Shoal. I really want it. Exile with Progenitus, give me Inkmoth Nexus +10/+10, and just kill someone.
I think
That's what I want to do.
I think you just exactly touched upon why they can't ban it. I think if Blazing Shoal was for your agents or your elves or your I cannot think of another infect creature. But it's the Inkmoth Nexus that makes that card inherently unfair because it's a turn 2 win that you can't interact through on turn 1. So like, you know what? Actually, hang on.
Yeah, you can. Just,
You
I
can,
want
you can
hyper.
use interact
just
with
kill
it.
it.
You can.
You
But
want Hypergenesis, Sam?
Yeah, I was about to say
that's a lot more unfair than this,
Dan,
anyway.
You go on, mate. I'm being very unfair.
I mean, I'm done.
like,
That's fine.
okay, so turn 2, right? Turn 2, you hold of 1 mana, whether it be Bolt, Fatal Push, Galvanic Discharge, whatever. They then go to attack. They can't protect with Force Negation. They can't keep a green card or green acceleration to protect it unless they're like, well, on turn 2 you couldn't even play like an a Noble Hierarch first. Like, yeah, you could get you on turn 2, but if you're just playing like anything that isn't Eldrazi, you probably got answers to it on turn 1.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean?
It's also like more fair than Hypergenesis. So
like, and if you force negation, or if you force negation or spell snare or stubborn denial, that like they've just wasted 2 cards to try and do it, you know.
Okay.
And they'd have to have exactly Blazing Shoal plus Progenitus again. And at that point, if they're doing that, they're dumping all those cards into one creature to kill you. Like, how different is that to what you know? At least they're killing you dead and not playing around with Gristlebrands and stuff like that on turn 2. Do you know?
Exactly.
Yeah, true.
Like Modern is now a turn 2 format, like because of Neobrand. Is it Neobrand? Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because of Neobrand, like, is now a turn 2 format. It potentially turn 1 format. Like, you can turn 1 with that deck.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Sorry, Dan. That's actually very rude of me. I need to work on myself, and
Don't apologize.
You need to be a better person.
We love you. Don't worry. But
Yeah.
a card I was thinking of that isn't.
Also, if they play a turn 1 Tameo, you've got a blocker.
Yeah, true. But another card that I was looking at was Antraptor, just because of how good it was in prowess when it was in the format, and it got banned for energies since. So just give me Antraptor, put it back in the format, but ban it in if you're playing Guide of Souls. Yeah,
Cards are so egregious.
At this point, just give me the One Ring back. Actually,
yeah, why not? I want to know what Modern would look like if we just unbanned everything and started again.
It would be a absolute.
It would be insane.
Puddle of toxic waste. Oh my god! I think Legacy would have a better chance than.
Oh yeah, it would be.
It's cool. So, second question.
Yeah, last one. What has ruined Magic more? This is bold.
Who are these from, by the way? Did he come with a name?
Question. They've not come with a name, but I think I know who you are. So the one about the ban list was from Bax, and this one is from MMT. So what has ruined Magic more? Universes Beyond or EDH?
EDH, hands down.
Hands down, EDH. Yeah.
And I think EDH players say that EDH products have ruined EDH for them.
Yep.
Like when EDH, so when EDH was, I've drafted this set. I've got 7 mana cards that are now going to live in a box or get thrown in the bin or whatever. I can now play with those cards from a standard set.
Mm-hmm.
Fine. Well, I mean, I'm going to caveat this even more. I think Magic being introduced through non-standard sets has ruined Magic. I think Universes Beyond as a supplementary products as a whole, the summer sets always create. They're exciting, but they rotate your eternal formats. Legacy is now rotating. Modern is now rotating format. MH2 Modern is dead. You don't see hardly any apart from Titan, because you're going to see Titan. But you don't see Hammer Time doing as well. It really entrenched decks and formats are just gone because of one set. That sort of stuff ruins Magic, which, because it's aimed at commander players a lot of the time, especially supplementary products like Initiative, that sort of things, ruins Magic. So maybe I'll go back on my answer. Maybe EDH as a format hasn't ruined Magic, but the fact that they are now the target audience has ruined Magic.
Yeah.
I say ruined Magic. It hasn't ruined Magic. I still love Magic. Like, Magic's class, but
If you think about it, if EDH didn't exist, we wouldn't have been given our first universes beyond in The Walking Dead, and then we wouldn't have escalated into, say, Final Fantasy, so on and so forth.
But I would say that if EDH didn't exist, Magic would probably have died through COVID.
Yeah. So also
EDH kind of saved Magic in a way.
Yeah.
But because Magic is now very EDH focused and there's no 40 player FNMs anymore, there's no Fatal Push promo FNMs anymore, there's none of that stuff. Like, it's feel bad because even LGS is now focused around the casual player. And I do think you need a casual player base for the game to survive, because casual player bases are what keeps money flowing. It keeps the game ticking over, because, there's going to be a bigger casual audience. There's always going to be a bigger casual audience, and there is going to be competitive. But the competitive side is being affected a lot by EDH. And I think straight to EDH products is also affecting EDH negatively. So maybe it's not EDH, maybe it's just the way they approach it.
I was about to say, before I give my answer, and then Josh stole my point, so now I don't even have a point, but I'm going to talk anyway.
Yeah.
How much Final Fantasy have you guys pre-ordered?
I did pre-order a box, but then my supplier lost their WPN status, so no longer could have it. So I've ordered nothing.
I have ordered nothing.
I have also ordered nothing. Do you know how much Final Fantasy EDH players have ordered?
So
loads.
Much. Yeah.
Loads and loads and loads. And look, I don't think Magic is ruined. I actually have started to appreciate Magic more in my old age. And I don't think Magic is ruined, so I can't answer the question. But, I can't remember the last time I bought a booster pack with some Sam Cash. And, I really enjoy playing the game. EDH players keep it alive, essentially.
Yeah, EDH players keep it alive, and because they get more value out of buying sealed, because they can play with pretty much every card if they want to, right? Whereas a competitive player, it is way less economic for us to buy sealed, because we buy singles. So the secondary market enjoys us. The primary market enjoys EDH players because they just buy everything, because they're can play everything. They see uses of anything. If you see anything over 5 CMC as a competitive player in Modern, you're like, what is that? I'm not even looking at it. You know what I mean? Like, you should, if you're a competitive player, you should buy singles, which is important. Secondary market, if you're an EDH player, that's why EDH players are great for trading. Absolute class for trading, because
they'll take anything.
Yeah, they take anything, but also they have some absolute gems in their folder, like absolute gems. Like, I'm like,
they fund the secondary market.
Yeah, so good point, Sam. We're competitive players. Not one of us have got any pre-orders booked. And you shouldn't if you're a competitive player. Honestly, you should buy singles.
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah, EDH has not ruined Magic, but the way they approach EDH has not been the best, in my opinion. The last listener question?
Yep, that's all. Again, if you want to get involved in next week's pod, there's a link below in the description or in the show notes if you listen on Spotify. Click on it, ask us a question, and say hi. Don't
forget to leave your name so we can shout you out. So to finish off, we've not reached 500 subs of recording of this. We are very close though. I think we're about 4 off maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So remember that when we reach 500 subs, we're going to push out a giveaway, which will be for the Sultai Apex sleeves from Ultra Pro, as well as the matching deck box. These are really good quality products. Chad Magic, therefore battlechads, is now sponsored by Ultra Pro, so check the products out, particularly the Apex sleeves. They're very good. We'll get details on how we decide to give away this product. It might be a comment on the thing or a listener question, probably something to do with the listener questions, try and promote that. But there will be a giveaway, and it will be a one package deal. There you go. Dan's got some there. I've got in my Gorios deck right here. I've got the anniversary ones, which are quite nice.
I like the anniversary ones.
Yeah, they've got they've got a nice, they shuffle really well, and they got like a nice snap to them, Really cool.
Yep.
For my blue belcher, I've got blue.
The simple man wants simple things. I
Very
like
good.
it.
Sweet. Sam, do you want to do the obvious to finish us off?
Yes, please, if you've enjoyed this episode, or if you haven't enjoyed this episode and you think that at least one of us is an idiot, probably me, please like, share, and subscribe, because that way you get to call us idiots every week. Or just, please, if you do enjoy it, share it with people. We love talking about Magic, and we really love engaging with other Magic players about Magic, so please, please, please check that out. I think that was what you're referring to, Josh, right?
Yes, it was, Samuel.
Cool. Yes. Blue sleeves, blue deck. Let's go.
Cheers, everybody. Catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye.